Game development is hard, but I'm sure you know that. See this game? I made that 4 years ago.
You what?
And now I've improved. I've reached the mighty heights of, well, this. If anyone here has eyeballs and looks at my channel, they may notice that I've been gone. Don't worry though, the games did it to me. And that doesn't include me playing it. As I've gone into college, I've gained more responsibilities, but I've also gained more time to spend on my passions, which is for me, game development. I've always been inspired by video games when it comes to the creation of them, from the gameplay, story, audio, and music. All of these different aspects of gaming come together to form some of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. Such as Metal Gear Solid, with its masterful gameplay that truly gives a player the option to do whatever they want to succeed, to Nier Automata, which made me bawl my eyes out the first time I saw Ending E. Don't even get me started with the music. You have the classic indie game jams that always happen to be RPGs, such as Undertale and Amori. And then there's me, the little dude who sees all of that and says, but better with my own little spin. So let me tell you my little ongoing story that's been going on with me that all started in high school. Lockdown happens, and well, you end up not having anything else to do when stuck indoors. This led to me learning how to make games on a Unity engine. Why Unity? Cause it's free. And it was a modern engine that a lot of games I like use, so it seemed like a good start. And like every other modern game developer of our generation, my quest for learning started with the YouTube tutorial dudes like Brackeys, Blackthorn Prod, and Danny. All of these guys had stuff that I could steal and use for my own, because I'm gonna be honest, in those early days when I'm copying what they're doing, I don't really have an understanding of how that coding magic works yet. I spent a lot of time making a bunch of projects that would never see the light of day, because I took the advice of a lot of YouTube channels out there, and made the active choice to not make a full game, because I know that I lack the skills to do that, and I didn't want to get boggled down by some massive project. 2022, I take part in my first game jam with the theme Take Your Time. Now to be honest, for the origins of this game, I was following a tutorial from Blackthorn Prod about making trails for a character, and decided to take that idea of having a dude follow your cursor into an actual game. Despite the incredible simplicity of it, I submitted the project as a part of itch.io's weekly game jam. I felt incredibly proud of myself, because as far as I know, this was the first real complete game that I ever put out there for others to play. Between the game jam and the next one I would participate in a few months later, I spent that time improving my skill by making throwaway projects to test some ideas or concepts. Sometimes it would be me wanting to make a flashlight horror game setup. Other times it would be me wanting to make some fancy toon shader. All of these aren't big enough ideas to be a base game, but they're still good for practicing my skills. So the next game jam rolls around, and this was the first game I ever did with another person. Here I split up the roles of programming, art, and music with 2 other people. This was also a itch.io weekly game jam, this time with the theme of cafe. We had this idea of having a game where you needed to deliver supplies to multiple cafes in a short amount of time. This game was completed within the given time frame, though if you go back to it, you realize that it's pretty much a hold right button to win. But regardless, it was a complete project. Now we get to 2021. I really wish this year was more interesting, but I could say that not much happened regarding game development. I spent more time messing around with the Unity game engine behind the scenes instead of making full games. Something interesting that I had developed was an RTS game prototype, where you can have enemies of soldiers and control individual units to fight. I would later use the AI I developed here for later projects. That's a real benefit of doing small projects like these. Even if you won't make a complete game, you can return to these smaller projects later and take features to use in newer projects. It's a time saver and a genuinely good way to learn about game development without overly committing to anything. After 2021, I began to dedicate myself to larger projects instead of smaller ones like the game jams. The reason why I was focusing more on specific projects was due to the fact that during 2021, I found myself busy with all sorts of life stuff, so it was hard to constantly be working on game development. But now that you know a little bit more about me and my gaming background, I think it's important to tie this all together. Why is game development so hard? Well, let's come up with a basic example. See this single clip from Titanfall 2? I want you to take a moment and realize all the different little things going on, from the movement, gunplay, animation, visual effects, and all the other more minor details. Every little thing has a purposeful implementation that someone was in charge of implementing. Now let's say that you want to make a basic shooter. You take what was just listed off before and break it into smaller parts. For example, let's make a first-person movement for your game. You'll realize that just doing something as simple as that may take you down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos as you figure out how to program this feature. You may realize that even something as simple as movement is a highly complicated field, especially when it comes to the feel you want your game to have. Do you want rigid movement like in Overwatch, or faster physics-based movements like in Titanfall 2? It's hard to get something to feel how you want it to, especially on a larger scale with so many different things interacting. Team Fortress 2 is a game that I promised I wouldn't bring up again, but I'll do it anyways. That game has 160 weapons, each of which contain their own unique abilities, models, animations, and uses. As a game developer, it's your job to be able to understand how those weapons work so you can continue to support the game and appease your players. There's a reason why game development takes so long in the first place. It's very time consuming to implement features in a game. That time spent becomes even longer when you need to figure out how things interact with each other without breaking. You can see how huge AAA releases struggle with releasing games due to bugs, even though you wouldn't normally see these same bugs in indie games. The bigger the game, the more likely it is that you'll encounter stability problems like lag, broken AI, soft locks, and all sorts of bad stuff. I say all of this to get across one idea. If you're really interested in making a game, don't create a massive scope. Generally, when people in the gaming industry talk about scope, they're usually talking about the realistic time you would spend working on the project and the size of the project you're working on. Try to start off by making games with a tiny scope. A good example of this are 48-hour game jams. These games are naturally restricted in scope due to their limited time, which results in them really focusing on what matters in their games. That could be things from gameplay, art, music, literally anything. Creativity is yours to take, so you know what? You guys can do whatever you want with your own creativity. If you guys start making games, feel free to name drop them below and I might check them out. If you're interested in seeing any game projects that I may be working on in the future, please feel free to check out my itch.io page. This is where I'm most likely going to drop any free games I make for you guys to test out. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to subscribe. I want to make a bigger effort into making these higher quality videos, so your support will push me to improve even more. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you next time. See you.